Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Paragon Guide. I am Sylphin. In this video, we are discussing how to be a proactive player. How can you use the resources in Paragon? How can you use your own brain to become a proactive player? Staying one step ahead of the enemy, using smart strategic play to turn the tide of battle into your favor. Join me in this video as we discuss how to be a proactive player. Like usual, ladies and gentlemen, please consider supporting the channel. Please help support me in providing this content for the community. Please consider going over there to my Patreon account and my Amazon wishlist if you so wish to support the channel. So, ladies and gentlemen, the very first category of tips here is watching the minimap. You have to, every 2 to 4 seconds, glance at the minimap. Too many people don't do that because you can really tell because they really don't know exactly quite what's going on, don't react in time to what the enemy is doing. They're really not prepared for what happens in the lanes in these. So right now I'm kind of counting on my Gideon here to be able to defend this lane, so that is why I'm not reacting there, and looks like he can. Just a little bit of tickle damage on our tower, nothing that I'm too worried about. That is something you have to pay attention to. If you are not looking at the minimap, you know, every 2 to 4 seconds, I'm glancing at it constantly, every few seconds to be honest with you, and that is definitely something you really need to do. That really is what separates a good player here. No. Because you need that map awareness for sure. B, count the visible enemies and note how many others are alive elsewhere on the map. You need to know how many enemies are accounted for in order for you to make strong strategic decisions. If you don't know how many of the enemies are, you aren't safe in pushing, you aren't safe in rotating through the jungle. You simply need to know where the enemy is and what they are doing. The third one is try to glean the enemy's individual objectives and their overall plan. If you can tell that the enemy is, if you can tell that that one hero is, you know, rotating to come and get you because you are deep in the enemy's territory, you can definitely use that information to retreat. You need to know what each enemy team is doing, and then try to put those that information together. 2 of the enemy team is rotating through the jungle to the right lane. 3 of them are going towards Orb Prime. I need... obviously, they're trying to split push after they get the Orb Prime, so I need to react accordingly. Basically, watch the minimap constantly. You need to just be able to account for where the enemy is. The next tip here, ladies and gentlemen, is be one step ahead. Be one step ahead of the enemy and try to react to what the enemy is doing, but also be able to force the enemy to do what you want instead. So, 1. Use your vision of the map to create a plan that forces the enemy to react in your favor. So, there is always a disadvantage to what the enemy is doing. There's no way that the enemy can have a plan that forces them to do everything without consequence. There's always a weakness in the strategy that the enemy is doing. So what you can do is utilize that. If the enemy is split pushing, then they have a numbers disadvantage over your team. So use that numbers advantage to, with a team member, take down the enemy. There's always a disadvantage that the enemy has. So you need to simply identify that and use it to your advantage. The second one is use communications to effectively express and execute this plan with your allies. So once you have identified the weakness, then what you can do is use that weakness over the enemy by communicating with your team. As long as you can communicate with your team, you should be able to execute a plan that takes advantage of the enemy. There's always a bad thing that the enemy can do. So, ooh, I'm not sure if I can. Oh, I totally missed that. Wow, I'm terrible. Holy smokes, just terrible. Just terrible. So, use this communication to effectively express and execute the plan with your allies. There's always a disadvantage that is present with the enemy, so you need to be able to communicate that to your team. Always, always be one step ahead. Force the plan, force the enemy to not, in fact, split push, because you are always ganking them and taking away, say they have Orb Prime, gank one, eliminate that numbers advantage, or that split push potential, so that they're just too worried to split push. Now, this might be a guide on being a proactive player, but this next tip is react to the minimap. Yes, you still have to react to the minimap. You are always not necessarily going to be on the forefront, and you might not always be able to perfectly anticipate what the enemy does. So, you need to react to the minimap. If an enemy is uncontested in the lane, defend it even though they might be far from your tower. Even though they might be far from your tower, you need to still rotate and defend that lane. You need to. Too many times have I seen, personally, the enemy, an enemy get a tower pick simply because nobody decided to rotate fast enough, and simply just, they got there too late. Simply too often have I seen that, and it's really just comes down to, can you use the map awareness here to your advantage? So, I'm gonna do this, try to nuke down this Murdoch here, use my shield, try to get something going. Oh, I didn't use my shield. Damn it, damn it! Ah, damn, was not able. Hopefully the Muriel can finish him off. Doesn't look like it though. Yeah, we do. But she's not gonna be able to get out of there. The next tip, ladies and gentlemen, is if you have numbers advantage, or the enemy team is together and preoccupied, and an enemy tower is under siege, notice this in advance and rotate to secure the kill early. Now, too many times has a potential tower pick not been utilized simply because nobody noticed that we had a minion wave pushing that tower. Take notice of what the tower is doing and go in and once more, unable to secure these kills here. The enemy teams are doing a fantastic job. Too many times have we had a wonderful tower or a minion wave pushing a tower and nobody is there to take advantage of it. And a good example right now is right lane there. We do have a nice big minion wave pushing, so we're going to have to try to go and attack right lane here because it will be a very nice minion wave to push with. Nobody rotates to get there early enough to do that. So let's go and attack right lane, hopefully get some kind of a advantage here with the minions. So trying to do that. So this next category of tips comes in with preparing for the enemy's team comp. Now, obviously, that goes without saying in the draft mode, which should always happen, so I'm not necessarily going to mention any of that. But what I am going to mention is using your specific abilities, for specific enemy heroes' abilities or specific enemy heroes. So, for example, my my Judgment of the Heavens here is going to be absolutely fantastic for securing a kill or preventing somebody from retreating when they use an escape ability. So I'm going to save my Q for something like a Twin Blast after he uses his rocket leaps for his rockets or whatever, or a Murdoch that uses his pushback. I'm going to save it for specific times when that's needed. So if you have a particular hero that has a crowd control, you should be able to. Oh, that was lovely. Are you serious? Am I gonna die right now? Wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable. You need to keep your CC for somebody. So like this Gideon, for example, on the friendly team, somebody like the enemy Rampage is definitely going to have to keep their boulder for his ultimate. He's going to have crowd control, and you're going to have to use it on that Gideon. You know what the enemy team has in terms of team composition, in terms of their abilities. Save those abilities. You see that my Q, the Judgment of the Heavens, there totally glitched out and went on top of the thing instead of being applied to that Murdoch, so I could actually get away there at the end. Yeah, it didn't really quite work out. So just save your abilities for key moments. If I'm a Richter, oh boy, am I saving my stuff for the enemy Gideon that's going to use his ultimate. Situations like that. I'm going to save my silence for the Gideon that's just trying to teleport away. Stuff like that. You really need to do that. B. Use wards and freeze your lane if the enemy has good rotations ganks. If they're simply using good rotations, or they have good gank heroes, use your wards and or freeze your lane. If you can push a tower, certainly do that, but you need ward. You need to make sure that the enemy is accounted for before you push that lane, or you have really good ward placement and or good escapes. You need to prepare for what the enemy team is good at and counter that. If they are going to be ganking you all the time, be proactive, place down that ward, freeze your lane so that you can eliminate that advantage for the enemy team. And C, analyze when certain heroes will become powerful and adapt your deck accordingly to be ahead of the enemy team. So, if they're a heavy fighter composition, you probably will want to get that health, those little bit of tanky cards a little bit earlier in your build than anything else. Usually your tank cards, usually some other cards as well, you can kind of you have some flexibility with when you exactly card them. Adapt to the enemy team. If you are ahead of the enemy team, equip those damage cards instead of that health, because you want to compound that advantage over the enemy team and win the game. So really have to analyze what the enemy team is doing. What are you at an advantage over the enemy team, or are they? And adapt to them. If you're behind, maybe you need to get those little bit of health cards so you can actually stay alive. Try to use your abilities, your CC, your cool abilities to actually make something happen. And finally, the very last category of tips here is something that I was struggling here at the end of this game. Keep a positive attitude. So, A. Keeping a positive attitude makes you more likely to think of constructive ideas and solutions. That is proven time and time again. If you are under stress and you have a positive attitude, your brain is more likely to think of positive ideas, constructive ideas, and actually come up with solutions at all. high-stress, negative environments have been shown undisputably that they shut down your brain. They shut down your constructive sides, your intellectual side, your, you know, the thing that makes us different from beasts. So keeping a positive attitude, doing everything you can to actually do that, will be much better than anything else you can do, for sure. That will really help you in your game, and B, it also helps inspire others to do the same. So if you put in 1 ounce of positivity, it gets multiplied for the rest of the game, amongst all of your teammates. It gets multiplied, and it does way more than you possibly think. So keep a positive attitude and just try to spread that throughout. So there you guys have it. There is the build, or there's the guide here. Not necessarily the best game to showcase this, but hopefully you got all of those tips. Try to do them your best. I know that every one of you can do it, so thank you very much. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, of course subscribe if you found this content useful, found it helpful, or simply enjoyed it. Please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.